So Maria, I understand that you know people who have lost their job simply because they don't have access to public transport.
Yes, Nicky, sadly that is the case for many of the families that we support at Barnardo's. Yes.
And it's not just that you could lose your job. Lots of people can't get their children to early childhood care and education. People who are missing out on therapy because of lack of public transport.
It's a real issue, Nicky. Like people, access to reliable transport impacts many aspects of someone's lives.
And sometimes out of desperation, people end up doing something illegal, like fare evasion, or maybe stealing a motor car, or driving unlicensed, simply because they don't have access to public transport.
Yeah, that is true. And sadly, that is the case for some of our families. And we try to support them in many ways to, try to avoid that, but they do resort to desperate measures.
Yeah, absolutely. And a silly mistake like that can really impact people for the rest of their lives. So I'm Nicky Sloan, I'm the CEO of Community Industry Group, and I'm coming to you today from the beautiful lands of the Dharawal people. And welcome to Community Matters, a podcast about community solutions with people who are making a difference in our community. And today we're joined by Maria Corsiglia, and Maria is a manager at Barnardo's, which is a child and family service here in the region. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you, Nicky. Glad to be here.
So, Maria, we're talking transport because the New South Wales government has been recently researching their strategic integrated transport plan, and we wanted just to talk to you about some of the impacts that lack of access to transport has with young people, children and families in this region.
Yes. So, as I mentioned before, unfortunately, reliable to, transport that is accessible and reliable is a significant issue for our families, and we see the impact every day.
Could you talk a little bit more about how, when we don't have access to transport, it further disadvantages people?
Yeah, 100%. So sadly, we see that impact in their capacity to attend, for example, our supported playgroups. We offer a range of supported playgroups for families pretty much every day of the week. We see the impact that being able to access that on a weekly basis has on families in terms of developing the relationships, accessing the services that they need, being able to consistently get the therapeutic supports for the children. So it's not as simple as saying, oh, they miss a week and it's okay. It really impacts that relationship, the trust building. And I think that for our families that need it the most, it pushes them into further disadvantage. We see a strong correlation with weather, for example. When weather is, it's rainy or it's very windy out there, our attendance reduces by over 50% because it's really hard for families to get out there and sometimes catch 2 buses to attend a supported playgroup. We see the impact that it has on accessing early childhood nurses. We are very lucky to have a partnership with our local health district and with Karatani that sees outreach of early childhood nurses from our centres. And we see a very strong correlation with weather and the lack of attendance to those appointments. So it's families out there missing out on Blue Book checkups for the kids or really good advice on parenting tips, because they are not able to attend our centre. So it impacts many families in many ways. Yeah.
And yeah, that's true. I mean, I can't imagine how difficult it would be to be, trying to cart 2 children and prams and everything in the rain between 2 buses. And it can take several hours, can't it, to go a really short distance?
Yes. Look, we've got, many examples of families. We had a young mum that relocated from Sydney to the Illawarra some time ago, and she had a toddler. She was lucky enough to be relocated within walking distance of our centre in Warrawong, but very quickly she realised how hard it was going to be for her in terms of being, accessing transport, because the first hurdle that she found was preschool. She needed to find preschool for her young daughter. Being only limited to the local options because it's whether she could walk to, she was placing waiting lists rather than being able to then go further out of area to find a suitable preschool. So that saw her waiting for months for a available space. Then the next steps was she was successful in obtaining a job, but her job was in Wollongong. And for her to get there, she needed to catch a bus from Warrawong to Port Kembla train station, wait for the train that only comes once every hour. If she misses that train or if the train was late, then she was late for work. And then once arriving into Wollongong, walking to her job. So the reality is, a return trip could take 3.5, 4 hours for something that is 15 Ks that you will do in a car in 10 minutes. So of course that had a ripple effect in her life. She started spending money in taxi, in Uber. So of course that wasn't sustainable. She missed a couple of shifts. She got late to her job. She ended up losing her job. That pushed her into further disadvantage. She had to attend a range of services to overcome her life history and past trauma. And unfortunately, because of where she was living, some services see that as very risk areas and they don't do in-home support. So she was forced to have to access these services, again, catching at times 2 buses to get to a psychologist appointment, which when you add everything up, it makes it really hard for a single mom to be able to take her daughter to preschool, go to work, attend her psychologist appointment. In order to achieve sustainable housing, she needed to attend several house inspections. Sometimes there was very short notice for those inspections. So, of course, she will miss those inspections, which, again, some services can have a very punitive approach to those things rather than trying to understanding what the barriers are for a single mom to be able to do all that. So that pushed her into housing, not being able to have stable housing. She was very lucky that she continued to access our supports at Barnardo's because it was within walking distance. It was an accessible service for her, which made a difference. But what showed and highlighted was that when you do have accessibility to services, parents want to engage them. They want to access those services. Yeah.
That's such a poignant story, and it always impacts me when I hear about services who won't go into areas because it's too dangerous, and yet they're not too dangerous for young single mums to have to raise their kids. That's a real statement about society.
It is, and I think that outreach is a key word in that. Yes. Services need to do outreach to reach those families.
Yes, yeah. where they're at. So what actions have Barnardo's taken to support clients in regards to transport?
Yeah, Nicky, at a higher level, we continue to advocate and participate in things like, continue to raise the voices, continue to talk about this issue and participate in submissions like the one the Community Industry Group has just completed. At a local level, we continue to offer outreach. It's a significant, important part of the job that we do. We try to go to locations, places and spaces where the families are and where they need us. We offer transport where we can, but that has an impact on budgets and workers' availability because transport takes time, and then we have to have pool cars and the cost of petrol, so it does have an impact on then the amount of families that we're able to reach out to. We support families to access no interest loans to be able to afford cars and don't engage into illegal activities in order to attend our centre or visit the children. So I think there are many ways that we're trying to support our families. Yeah.
And is there anything that listeners could do to support Barnardo's in that kind of work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that an important one is to continue to raise awareness. Let's talk about this. Talk about how it impacts families, how it impacts a young mum walking with 2 kids, catching 2 buses, putting the pram in and out. Give a hand where you can and help. A lot of the times we do see these mums trying to do it all, and someone walking past that could say, hey, do you need a hand? I can help you with that. that. So I think there's little things. Other things will be, we are always looking for volunteers, you know, so if anyone out there would like to volunteer for Bananas and providing transports to supported playgroups is something that we are in desperate need of. So if anyone is out there and wants to do that, please contact us. We accept taxi vouchers and Opal cards for our clients. You know, it's something that is a practical support that really makes a difference.
Oh, that's great. That's some really, there's some really practical supports there. And actually volunteering to take a family to support a playgroup actually kind of sounds like a nice thing to do.
Yeah, it is. Of course, there's, you know, a little bit of a process, you know, taking volunteers, but I think it's a very rewarding activity as well.
Can you tell us what you've learned through this work?
Oh, I think I've learned that there's always joy and inspiration in the work that we do. It's a privilege to work alongside families and see them, you know, wanting to be the best parents they can and be able to support them in that journey. I think that we see inspirational women every day, you know, doing the hard yards. You know, we do have mums that come to a number of activities, parenting groups, supported playgroups with 3 little ones, and they come with joy and happiness. So I think I've learned that it is a really privilege to work alongside our families. Yeah, privilege. That's a lovely word. And actually it's made me realise what a privilege it is to not have been transport disadvantaged. It's actually a privilege to be able to drive a car and get where you need to be when you need to be there. Yeah, absolutely. I think I was reflecting about when I was pregnant and I was attending antenatal care appointments because I was privileged to have a car. It wasn't an issue. If I wasn't feeling great, if it was rainy, if it was windy, I will hop in my car, attend my appointment. Where I do find and hear our families sometimes missing important appointments because of the added barriers that, you know, access to reliable transport has on them. And it is sometimes easy for services to judge when families are missing appointments. But when you walk in the shoes and you see actually how hard it will be if you are not feeling great, if you have any other intersection with mental health issues or anything else that is affecting your life, having to think of the logistics of catching a bus, a train, the logistics of maybe 2 other children that come along, that one is having a little tantrum, that one is hungry, that doesn't want to walk anymore, and you have to, you know, carry them. It is really hard. So I think that if we sit for a moment and think about it and try to listen to understand what the barriers are, we can be part of the solution rather than jumping quickly to, oh, they miss their appointment, they're not engaged, they're not interested.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Thank you for that. This podcast is called Community Matters. Is there someone in the community that you want to tell us about that matters to you?
Yeah, I think I've been blessed to have, you know, incredible leaders and incredible women that have shaped me into, you know, the worker that I am today. But I think I'm going to talk about a foster carer. Her name is Di. She's been a short-term foster care with Bananas for over 20 years. And in that time, she has cared for over 35 children.
Wow.
From, you know, a range of ages. Her main goal and, you know, I think why she does this is because she wants to see children thriving. And she has been such an incredible support to families, to have the children reunited with them. So, you know, achieving restoration of those young children has been a privilege, you know, for Di. But I think that when I was looking at the intersection of transport, disadvantaged families and children in care, she has played an important role in supporting families with that practical assistance. So that has been able to transport parents to appointments, to psychologist appointments, drug and alcohol appointments, being able to attend important meetings with DCJ or Bananas, and also provide them with a lift when they needed to see their children. Dal would say, well, I'm going through Wollongong, I'll pick you up. Like, I'll take you to the visit because I'm going there. So Di had made such a significant difference in those children's lives. And every time I see her, she continues to be a foster care with Bananas. When she comes into the office, she will tell me, oh, you know what? I heard about little Billy. He's now 22 and he's in... So she remains in contact with more than, 20 of the children she had cared for. She remains in contact with the families, because she was able to become a very important piece in the puzzle of increasing the network of supports for families. And that has just such a significant, importance for our families. I think that is what matters. People like Di makes a difference and made a difference in children's lives and in their parents' lives.
Wow, she's very inspirational. Thank you for telling us all about Di. And thank you for joining us today, Maria, for Community Matters. That I think you've given us some really powerful stories about the impact of something as simple as transport and something that lots and lots of us take for granted every day. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for tuning in to Community Matters. Please don't forget to like and to share and to leave us a review, and tune in next time for more stories of innovation in our community.